Good evening, government people. It's cold in my area today. I'm back. Last week I published a written endorsement of Mr. Usin Dawa of the UDP as my pick in the upcoming presidential elections, which I like do in less than 3 weeks now. And as I promised, I'm back to do an audiovisual version of that endorsement. And what I would do is I would do this in segments. I going down the list of the president's candidates, and for each of the candidates, I would tell you what I believe are the pluses, the positives that each of these candidates bring to the table. And of course, I will start with the first five, and I will end up with Sadawa, and I'll tell you why I think he's a better candidate. He's a better candidate for the presidency than the previous five. And so, if you follow my writings in the last 20 something years, whatever, you would you would notice that whatever my prejudices are, you don't have to guess. All you have to do is read what I write, because I try to be as straight as possible with folks about where I'm coming from, why I say this, why I take the position I take on any issue, and give you the reason for it. And you could agree or disagree, and that doesn't bother me at all. I don't lose any sleep over the fact that what I say or write is unpopular. I just say what I believe, and people can do whatever. And the good thing at this point is most Gambian people have made up their mind now. You are where you are, you support who you support. And for some, it doesn't matter, and to some of us, actually, it does matter why you support somebody. And so this is my take on these candidates. Again, and these are my opinion. On these guys, and most of these, if you care, you can actually go and verify and see if I'm just making this stuff up. But it is what I believe it is. And so I will start with Barrow, and I will segment it. Go to next. I'll move to Rajame and Halifa Salah, Esafal, and Mama Kande, and then before I get to Mr. Davo. And so I will start with Barrow, because he's incumbent. And so what do I think are the main positives of Adama Barrow? What does Adama Barrow bring to the table? Adama Barrow of 2016 was an unknown candidate. We don't know much about him at all. All we know, he went to Muslim high school, and then somebody said, oh, he was in England for 7 years, and he took a course there on real estate. I don't know. I know real estate course, you can do that 6 weeks, 3 months maybe maximum, and it's done. So when somebody told me at the time that that he did a 3 weeks course, he did a course in real estate. I said, real estate, that's it. That's the extent of it. Of course, that person is now a diplomat working for Barrow. I thought it was a crazy thing. So that's why I wrote, God Save the Gambia, may God Save Gambia back in September of 2016. He was very annoyed that I wrote it, but that's your government there for you. But in any case, Barrow has some positives. What are these positives in my view? One, before Barrow took over power, the Gambia had changed completely from the Gambia that I grew up in. Kidnapping, disappearances, people being forced into exile, rape, torture, and all of these I'm saying, these are all state-sponsored. I'm not talking about ordinary people doing these craziness themselves. No, I'm talking about the state-sponsored, the ones that are actually choreographed and commanded, orders given out of State House, by junglers, by the NIA agents, by a whole litany of people who all had a license from the president, from the head of state, to do these things without any accountability. This was the rule of tyranny, impunity. You can do anything you want as long as you acting in the name of Yaya Jakut. You could do anything you want. So all these terrible things were happening. Now, one of the big positives, for me, for Barrow State, is that has pretty much stopped now. Okay, we don't hear of these everyday kidnappings, disappearances, tortures on the NIA, people being forced into exile. All those things are pretty much stopped. Even the regular, hire and fire and the continuous thing, ministers been dismissed after weeks on the job. All those things have stopped. This is a very good thing. That's Barrow's being positive to me. The second positive of Barrow is this, he's very lazy intellectually, very lazy. This is not somebody who reads anything, okay? Uh, but one of the things he's done, which is very good, is because government is a continuum. Okay, the projects were started on the Jawara that were never implemented by the PPU government. Big plan, Lamakoto Pasamas Road, the Senegambia Bridge. 1978, Jawara went to France to meet the French president about those things, and they were raising funds even back then. Sekou Touré came to Gambia. He was in Pakalene. When I was in Pakalene, February of 1978, Touré was there. That's the first time I saw him live. Manju was, we were school kids then. And then he gave a speech and all those. And they were talking about this OMVG thing because Guinea is the source of the River Gambia. And so, they were at that time, even back then, they're talking about the San Mangalo Dam, in Guinea, which should supply Gambia with electricity. Even back then, it was 1978. Okay, that's well with that, both Javi and myself were, just exiting, primary school. So this wasn't a new thing. So Jame inherited that project from Jawara, and he started work on it. And of course, when he kicked out, the project was just less than halfway done. And Barrow came in and he continued and he finished it. And then Lamankoro Passam was the same thing. We talked about for 30 years, they never, did it. Jakut came, same thing, played games there for 22 years. He never did it. But, when Barrow came, the fund was already available, and then they continued. They did it. And they did 2 other bridges in the Upper River area. These are very good things that Barrow's done. These are the positive about. Now, I can't find anything else that I can say about Barrow now. So I'll go to the negatives, which are more pronounced. My first problem with Barrow, which I think is very dangerous for the country, is Barrow sees the presidency as a hustle. You see, young Adama Barrow, after graduating Muslim high school, living at Muslim high school, went to Germany. And in the 80s, this was, some people, but from the mid 80s, 85, 86 to 90, governments were going to Germany like crazy. It was fast money. They come and they started langers. I had classes, I had school with friends who went, and 2 years they come. They come with 2 cars, 3 cars. They were not making it. They were not sweating. They were selling drugs. They were selling cocaine to Germans. The Germans didn't understand, Africans much. And so it was easy for them to fool them. And so there were a lot of them. Most of them are all broke because, you selling cocaine, you start sniffing cocaine, and cocaine gets back to you, So we had a lot of them, hundreds of government youths went there. Barrow is one of them. He went there, and of course, he didn't last it because you got to be smart to stay ahead of the police. And Barrow, we all know now, is not a particularly bright individual. And so Barrow got deported. Well, that fast mood mentality, that fast thing, tough thing, is still in Barrow. And Barrow literally sees our government, the presidency, has an opportunity for him to make money quickly. And we see manifestation of that, which is why we have the second negative, which is the state capture. State capture basically means you take over state funds and you basically let a group of business people, merchants, dictate what is good for them. Basically, what is good for them is not what's good for the country, but what's good for their business interest. How do they make money? So we see that in cement. We see that importation of cement, on food items, on building materials, on oil. You see the effect on our energy supply, electricity supply, water supply. All of these are tied to state capture. We have a group of business people now who literally run Clinton Gambia. Whatever they want is what Barrow does. We know who these people are. They don't have to find. Ben Suarez writes about them all the time, and he's right. This is just dangerous. It's not a good thing. That's the second one. The third negative of Barrow, which is very dangerous, which really frightens me, is this cocaine business. Gambia is now has replaced Guinea-Bissau now, has a cocaine hub in West Africa. This is dangerous for Gambia. The implications are terrible. On crime, we have seen crime go through the roof. This is directly tied to what's happening with cocaine getting into the country. We know for a fact from Interpol, not because of Gambia police, but from Interpol, we know that 5 tons of cocaine have landed in Gambia in the last 3 years. Okay? The government has been lying to Gambian people about this. Nobody has been arrested or prosecuted for this. This is dangerous. And we know for a fact that some of the kids now who are committing crimes, burglary, rape, all these crazy break-ins and all these things they're doing, that cocaine has something to do with it, drugs have something to do with it. Because see, thieves in Gambia, thieves sneak into people's houses at night in the cover of darkness. Thieves don't go into a command and start making noise and insulting people and threatening to rape people's daughters in their presence. That is not happening. This is very, very dangerous. This should not happen. This is not an accident. This is happening because cocaine is now being sold inside the country. And we know who are doing this thing. They are people around Adama Barrow. Barrow doesn't care. As long as Barrow is in power, those people remain untouchable. They will remain untouchable. That's the fact of the matter. All these camouflage they're doing, all this talk about arresting somebody or chasing after somebody is nonsense. It's never going to happen. As long as Barrow is in power, these people are safe. They will continue to import guns into our country. They will continue to import cocaine into our country. And so now we have a criminal narco state, basically, because the people selling the cocaine, bringing cocaine into Gambia, are people who have lunch and dinner with Adama Barrow at State House. If you're a Gambian, you all have to do, make a few calls and you know who these people are. So he's a terrible man. He needs to go. The fourth one, if you need any more justification, you look at our diplomatic passport. They really, we're now on the list of countries that Europeans have flagged for having suspect diplomatic passports. And that's because a cartel within this presidency was busted 3 years ago for selling our diplomatic parties to Eastern European crooks. This is crazy. This has never happened in our history. This is crazy. Yaya Jacob, with all his craziness, never did this kind of things. And yet Barrow is doing this. And that's donating about all we hear just lies and lies and lies. And then the fifth negative is the injection of tribalism again in Gambian politics. This is an old thing. It was there in the 1960s, actually. In the Penjai, Jawara contest of 1960 and 1962, tribalism was a big part of it. So what used to be said, on the political platforms in Banjul was this. Mr. Njai, of course, is kind of contradictory in that the private Penjai is more likable than the public Penjai. The private Penjai was the one that took care of Sinudavo and Lalo Samate and several other boys from the provinces. But the public Penjai was saying a lot of crazy things, really, really incendiary tribal things. And it's and he had the support of Bajulov generally. His demand when we I had a friend when I was going to school who lived on Dobson Street, and we would go to and then one of the old ladies, and then one day we went there for lunch break, and he said something, and the old one said, Jai, Mosukaron Tenba. I didn't know what the hell that was at the time. But the old lady said that. So he had, Mr. Jai had a lot of support there. And that was just the environment. But in any case, Peña couldn't act on the things he was saying. Even if he meant what he was saying publicly about Southern people, he never had the political power to do it. Yajimi had the power to do it, and he did. He acted on this. This is why it became public policy. Literally, it became anti-Manikism. What became this the money phobia thing became public policy. It just became of the different governments that Yajimi had. Basically, if you want to advance forward, you all you have to do is show him that you hate Manika people. This was it. And like he had, cabinet ministers, doing things and saying things that were just very ugly. And of course, now there are a lot of people who really want to forget that. They want to pretend that none of that happened. And part of the reason that you see a very polarized electorate is because of that fact. And so, but in any case, you go to the 6th point, the crime is now out of control. Corruption is out of control because yeah, Jacob, for all his craziness, he was a very corrupt man. He was stealing our money left and right. He was raping women. All these things we now know for a fact from the two commissions we had. But the one thing he had going for him was the fear factor. People were terrified of offending Yahya Jammeh. Nobody wanted to offend him because he will lock you up quickly if you do so. He was the only one who can steal. So anybody else who steals, without his blessing, you get humiliated and you will thrown into mile to his hotel, 5-star hotel. And that was there. That fear factor is no longer there. So people steal left, right, and center now. It's like fufu, right now going on. Fufuro. People are just grabbing and just grab anything they can take. Ministers are doing it. We've seen all kind of things happening with the Chinese there, with foreign businesses, Senegalese businessmen. A lot of crazy stuff is happening there. This should not happen. When you look at what's happening in our commerce, you see what's happening with the fishing industry. You see what's happening with the foreign exchange market. All these things, basically validate this rumored, much talked about state capture that we have in the country. This is dangerous. This is not a good thing for the country. And so this is a man that really needs to be separated from the presidency. He needs to be ejected as quickly as possible. He's not the right man for the job. He's doing a lot of crazy things that really we could do without. Okay, this is not a good thing. It's not a good thing for us. And part of the problem with Barrow is he's intellectually very lazy. This man has no intellectual curiosity. This is not a man who said, okay, somebody has told me that, let me go and read. I can search. I'm the executive now. This is my government. I'm going to find out whether what this man is telling me makes sense or not. You see, one of the things, when I met Barrow, one of the things that struck me, and I told some of his aides soon after all, when I met Barrow, the day I met Barrow, there was a rumor in Gambia. Somebody had spread the rumor in Gambia that Yahya Jammeh had a stroke, and he was flown out of Equatorial Guinea to a hospital somewhere, North Africa or somewhere. When I was leaving my place in Kotu, the cab driver told me that, Degangali have, and I said, what? And he told me. And I said, what? I had my phone with me and I had connection. So when he told me, immediately I went to Reuters. He said Yahya Jammeh was flown out. Yeah, it's true. I know if it happened, the Associated Press, AP would have the news, or Reuters would have the news. Okay, I went immediately. I went online. I checked AP, the Associated Press. There was nothing there about Jammeh. I checked Reuters. There was nothing about it. I checked the French, RFI, Agent France. I looked at it. There was nothing there. It's funny, when I got to State House, when I was Barrow, the fellow they call Musa Bad, somebody said he's a cousin of the Fatuba, came in, and Barrow had called him to come and fix something for him, a TV or something. And this, when he came, Barrow said, when we were talking, Barrow said, did you hear? They said he's sick. He has a stroke. They took him out. And when he said that, I immediately shut it down. I said, no. I said, no. I said, that's not correct. I said, don't say it. I said, that's not true, Mr. President. It's not true. That did not happen. I said, I checked it, And but one thing that bothered me when I left Barrow's office, another thing, and I told his folks, how crazy are the people around, how ignorant are the people around Barrow, that they would pass this kind of information to Barrow without verifying the source, without verifying or validating that this is accurate or inaccurate. Somebody makes this story about Yahya Jammeh having a stroke and being thrown out of Equatorial Guinea, and the president of Gambia, they go to the president of Gambia with that kind of nonsense without verifying anything. In just a few minutes, a little less than 5 minutes, I was able to validate, and this is nonsense. Because if Yahya Jammeh had been sick, the AP, the Associated Press will have it, or Reuters will have it, or the Agent France will have it. I mean, all of these are all colonial organs. They still keep a tag on the wall because their intelligence agencies depend on them, on this information. And in 5 minutes, I was able to find it. And yet I was with the president of the Gambia, and he was bringing out this credit, and that which is not true. So I shut it down immediately. And of course, he opened his eyes like he has seen a ghost. And I realized, I said, oh, he's already in the bubble. This was January of 2018. So already he was used to people lying to him, telling him what he wanted to hear. Well, I'm not in that business. I've never been there, and I will never be. I will tell you what you need to hear. Whether you're the president or the leveler, it doesn't matter to me. I will tell you what I believe is truth. And so that right there tells you something about what we're dealing with. And of course, if you have noticed, we now basically have compromised security, our sovereignty to Senegal. Senegal remains a French colony. Senegal has been a French colony for 200 years now. The Senegalese have a fascination with the French, with the Tuareg. Anything they see the Tuareg do, they love it. Okay? And anywhere the Tuareg go, the Senegalese follow. Somebody to it, Senegalese go. Troyolais Senegalese. Troyolais Senegalese. These were the soldiers of Senegal, the French in Africa. They went when the French went, they want to put down a rebellion in the Congo Republic. The Senegalese went. The French wanted to put down the rebellion in Vietnam, where they were kicked out later on. The Senegalese went. The French went to put down Samori Touré. The Senegalese went. The French want to put down the Algerian resistance. Senegalese went. So every single place that the French have had any sort of trouble in the last 200 years, Senegalese go in large numbers. Dakar was the capital of French West Africa, not because Senegal is the richest colony of the French, no, but because the people in Senegal, for whatever reason, had a fascination with Tuareg. Whatever the Tuareg said, they would do. Okay, that continues to this. Senegal remains a colony of the French. We in Gambia fought for independence from the British. Okay, fought not with bullets, we fought with our mouth. People travel all over the country, mobilized this local support for our independence, and Jawara under the leadership of DK Jawara, they won. We should not cede our independence, our sovereignty, to a French colony, okay? Because sooner or later we'll become the 16th province of Senegal. This is outrageous. We should not allow this to happen under any circumstances, and so we should do anything to stop it from. And Adama Barrow is the man who is putting on that Senegalese thing. And so the last point is that, which is a very negative thing, is we are seeing a slow return of political vendetta. If Adama Barrow suspects somebody is not loyal to him, or somebody whoever supports, it's now a crime basically now to support UDP in the government. If you're suspected of being a sympathizer of UDP, you're out. This is crazy. With Jawara, we had some faults, but following, political persecution was not one of them. And so here, this was Yaya Jaku's thing, and now Barrow is bringing this thing back gradually. And that shouldn't be no surprise, because the NIA, Jammeh's NIA, remains intact. The people who were kidnapping and raping people and doing all this, they're still very comfortable at the NIA. It's just crazy. It's, no reform in the police, no reform in NIA. It's just crazy. The security reform is a joke. So why is this man running for office again? I can't imagine. So I know there are people who are obsessed with Hussein Dabo. It's like the whole contest is not between the interest of Gambian people and Adama Barrow's incompetence and corruption and madness. Is either Barrow or Hussein Dabo. And they say, oh, Hussein Dabo is so terrible, so terrible that they would rather have Adama Barrow. This is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. There's no facts behind this thing, and I'll get to that eventually. But no, Barrow is a bad choice for us at this time. Unless we are desperate, I don't see any reason why anybody who's sane would want to vote for Adama Barrow. He's the wrong person for the job, and Gambian people need to really understand what is at stake. We don't need our kids to be selling their bodies because they are cocaine addicts. And if Barrow stays in office, that will happen. Crime will never come down, because cocaine, the more cocaine becomes normalized in the country, prostitution, crime, violence, incest, all of those things. If you're high on cocaine, you can sleep with your own mother, on your own sister, or your aunt. Rape and crime and violence, deaths, destruction, all these things are there. And one of his associates importing guns into Gambia. Supposedly they are for game, for hunting. Do we have any animals to hunt in Gambia now? This is crazy. So government people wake up. This man is not a good person. He shouldn't be the president of the country. And I think we've seen enough in the last 5 years to know he's the wrong person. All right. So I'll move to the next candidate. Thank you.